Hey, everybody, and welcome back to For the Booze.
For the Booze.
For
And
the Booze.
we are back.
That's right, we are.
For another week. I won't make the same comment about, Gators football.
Go Gators.
Because we are staying in Alabama. If you caught what we were saying last week, we were going to do the Jemison-Van De Graaff mansion.
Yes. Its own entity.
Was by far the most frustrating research I've done.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just want to go into this by letting everybody know I had to read blogs. Yeah, blogs from like 2000 to 2010 to find stuff.
Going back in time.
This place is almost everywhere that I've read is noted as not just a haunted place in Tuscaloosa. We're going to Tuscaloosa this time.
Okay.
It's noted as the most haunted house in Alabama. But I had the hardest time finding anything out about it. So
Interesting. That is super interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what you pulled together here.
I feel like I bit off more than I could chew this time. So we are talking about the Jemison-Van De Graaff, which is also sometimes referred to as the Jemison-Hargrove Van De Graaff mansion.
Okay.
It's all the same family,
Gotcha.
and they lived there for generations. So yeah, let's get into this.
All right, let's do it.
I'm sure I'm going to have some gripes along the way. Now, reportedly, the name Tuscaloosa is a compound Choctaw word, Tusco meaning warrior and Lusa meaning black. And the Black Warrior River flows through the north portion of the city. In 1828, Andrew Jackson, probably the most racist president ever, was elected president of the United States. And he had gained popularity when he defeated the Creek tribe at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend in 1814, following victories in the War of 1812. He long proposed native removal to a native territory to be established west of the Mississippi, to make land available in the southeast for European American settlement. Jackson abandoned the policy of his predecessors of treating different native groups as separate nations. So in Andrew Jackson fashion, he just said, you're all the same, and you don't belong here anymore. And decided, hey, we're just going to push you off into this land that nobody else wants.
Again, American history
is bad.
Not great.
I have very strong feelings when it comes to this topic, but I will leave them out. But yeah, so he basically just rounded them up like cattle and said, get out.
Okay.
Now, instead, he aggressively pursued plans to move all native tribes living east of the Mississippi River. Following congressional passage of the Indian Removal Act in 1832, the Creek National Council signed the Treaty of Cassetta, I think that's how you pronounce that, ceding their remaining lands east of the Mississippi to the U.S. and accepting relocation to the Indian Territory. So he fought them off, and they ended up realizing that they couldn't win, and they white flagged it and were pushed out. I got to be honest, I didn't know that this was going to be the kind of stuff that was going to be in here when I said we were going to do this. They had already been under pressure from new settlers encroaching on their territory. Most Muskogee-speaking peoples were removed to Indian Territory during the Trail of Tears in 1834, although some did remain behind. The pace of white settlement in the southeast increased greatly after the War of 1812, and the subsequent availability of land previously settled by Native Americans was quickly declining. In 1817, Alabama became a territory. On December 13th, 1819, the territorial legislature incorporated the town of Tuscaloosa.
Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
That's right.
Good thing I don't have a cousin there. My marriage would be different. Sorry, Alabamans. It's just it's low hanging fruit.
I know.
I know you're not really like
it's
that.
So easy.
One day before Congress admitted Alabama to the Union as a U.S. state. Now, from 1826 to 1846, Tuscaloosa was the capital of Alabama. The State House was built at the corner of 6th Street and 28th Avenue, the future site of what is now Capitol Park. In 1831, the University of Alabama was established, and the town's population and economy grew rapidly. But the relocation of the capital to Montgomery caused a severe decline. The state legislature established Alabama State Hospital for the Insane, or now Bryce Hospital, in Tuscaloosa in the 1850s, which helped restore the city's fortunes.
Hey, we know that hospital.
Yeah, but that hospital is what helped bring Tuscaloosa back to life.
Right.
I forgot to mention at the beginning too. We've covered a lot of stuff like this. This house is freaking beautiful. It is beautiful.
I can't wait to see it.
It's a little rundown because it's so old.
Yeah.
But it may be the only house that we've covered where I will say I would live in this house.
Wow.
It is amazing.
And again, podcast friends, if you're interested in seeing all of these, over on our YouTube video, we include clips and pictures and things of anything and everything that we can possibly find relating to the stories that we read. Yeah. So I'm excited.
It's an amazingly beautiful house. The Jemison-Van De Graaff mansion was constructed by state senator at the time, Mr. Robert Jemison Jr., between 1859 and 1862. Being a prominent politician and businessman, Jemison wanted a home closer to Tuscaloosa, which had served as a state capital from 1826 to 1846. Now, Jemison originally built this mansion for entertaining and housing visiting colleagues. I don't think he spent a lot of time at this house.
Okay.
I think he lived more out on Cherokee Plantation. So it's crazy to think that this house was kind of just built to show off.
Yeah, and I like the way it seems as like the Cherokee Plantation was like his home. And, he didn't want people at his house maybe, so he built this other house to be able to have meetings or
we're not alive.
Or whatever.
We'll slow your roll because we weren't alive for that. So I'm just guessing by what I'm reading.
Right.
It could have been where he stayed mainly, but from what I read, I'm not 100% sure about that.
Okay.
Now, the Jemisons spared no expense creating the state-of-the-art city home. 14 different types of wood were used in the construction of the house, and all but 2 came through Jemison Land Holdings. He wanted to showcase not only his personal wealth, but also the wealth of the region. Now, this house, Jemison's weekend house, see, there's another that say maybe he wasn't there too much.
Right.
Cost him $89,000 to build. Today, the equivalent of $3,367,727.83.
Oh my God. Spare no expense, apparently.
Well,
wow.
Now the state of Alabama spent $50,000 or $1.8 million today building the state capitol, and that was for the land, materials, labor, and so forth.
Wow.
I think while it does cost money, because he went through a lot of his own stuff to build this,
right?
It would have cost, if we were alive back then, it would have cost us $3 million to build, but it didn't necessarily cost him that kind of money to build.
Right.
Now, Jemison did not pay for labor. He did not buy the materials. He obtained them from his own mill and land companies. And Jemison spent almost twice the amount it took for the state capitol building just in frills.
Oh, my God.
Now, the Italianate-style house was designed by Philadelphia architect John Stewart, and no, not the John Stewart that we're all thinking, who was in the Tuscaloosa supervising the construction of Bryce Hospital. Stewart, in a partnership with Samuel Sloan, also designed the Bryce Hospital for the Insane in Tuscaloosa. So there's another connection.
Yeah.
Although it was a partnership, Sloan tended to be more of the designer while Stewart served as the practitioner, considering the logistics of certain design elements and overseeing construction. While many of the design elements of the mansion were heavily influenced by Sloan, John Stewart drew up the plans and supervised the construction of the mansion from start to finish. The 26-room Jemison home incorporated the latest innovations in design and technology, including an elaborate plumbing system that included running water.
26 rooms.
Not to mention flushing toilets, which I think about when we're talking
was
about.
a huge Huge thing to have back then.
And a copper bathtub, a large conservatory to be warmed by a central heating plant, which was never installed due to the Union blockade because this was all going on during the Civil War.
Yeah.
And indoor lighting fueled by coal gas manufactured in a machine located in the basement.
Wow.
So this is a very high-tech home.
So these are the things that he spent money on because he pretty much procured everything that, from his businesses to build it, and he put most of the money into all of these things.
Yeah, and he had the means to do it. So
right.
He basically said, anything new and technological is going into this house.
Super elaborate and lavish.
I mean,
got it.
That's a lot. That's a lot of money for those days.
Wow.
Now, other modern features incorporated in the design were a boiler for producing hot water, a gas stove, an early form of a refrigerator, and a dumbwaiter from the basement kitchen to the pantry located above. The Jemison Mansion had the first built-in bathtub in the state. It was also the first house built with an indoor toilet as well.
Wow.
So while everybody else was digging holes, squatting on the ground, he got to read a magazine or the back of a shampoo bottle like the rest of us.
I love indoor plumbing.
Yeah, I think it's pretty special.
Yeah.
Now, one facet of the Jemison Mansion's history is often told incorrectly. Many sources will tell you that the mansion was almost burned down during the Civil War, when in fact, Robert Jemison made sure that his home was safe from the flames of the war between the states. Now, in 1864, instead of finishing his term in Congress, Jemison unexpectedly returned to his home in Tuscaloosa. Now, at this point in time, the only bridge in commission that crossed the Black Warrior River was the one that he owned. Now, when the Union crossed the bridge and arrived at the mansion, a wedding celebration was in full swing, with many of the richest and most powerful Alabamians in attendance. Now, Jemison Jr. knew that the Union would soon try to take control of his home, so he planned the celebration at the opportune time. As a result, there was a peaceful agreement between Jemison and the Union troops.
Thinking ahead.
He's a smart guy.
Wow.
Right? Because
what?
There's always casualties of war, but this is a civil war. It's between, the country that we all have to share. And everybody knew that when it ended, we would all have to share the country still.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to shoot at a line of soldiers that are shooting at you, but it's a completely other thing to show up at a prominent Southern home and mow down, the elite society people during a wedding.
Absolutely.
So
So he's playing those chess pieces.
It was a very, very smart move. He was a very smart man. I'm sure he made decisions that I wouldn't necessarily agree with, but
yeah,
he was a very smart man.
Wow.
Now, the home would remain in the family well into this century. 4 generations of Jemisons and Van De Graaffs have lived in the home, carrying on the tradition of service to the community and the university. They have strong ties to the University of Alabama. You know, that whole Roll Tide thing that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Sounds like something a girl goes through once a month, but that's just me.
Hey.
I'm just saying.
Stop.
Okay.
Moving on.
I didn't even know I was going to say that today. Among them are Colonel Andrew Coleman Hargrove, the Confederate Army office and one-time dean of the University Law School, and future Speaker of the Alabama House, who married Jemison's daughter, Cherokee Mims Jemison.
Hey, we talked about her.
We did. Now, their daughter, Minnie Cherokee Hargrove, married A.S. Van De Graaff. So that's where the Hargrove comes in.
Okay.
Okay, I guess technically 2 generations of Hargroves did live there.
Gotcha.
A circuit court judge. Now, they would go on to have 2 notable sons who also lived in the house. William Van De Graaff was Alabama's first All-American football player.
I knew that name sounded familiar.
Now, his brother, Robert Van De Graaff, was a brilliant physicist, most well known for his invention of the Van De Graaff generator. If you saw a picture of it, you would absolutely know what that is.
Okay.
Robert Van De Graaff's accomplishments led to his legacy in the science community as the father of modern physics.
Wow.
Do you know the big ball, and it has like lightning inside of it, and there's always like pictures of girls with their hair standing up?
Yeah.
That's what that is.
What?
He invented that.
That's super cool.
Now, after the Van de Graaff sold the house in 1936, the mansion was used as an apartment complex for numerous years. The mansion saw its second set of owners in 1945 when the home was purchased by J.P. and Nell Birchfield, and they returned it to a single-family residence and made some major renovations. Now, Mrs. Birchfield painted everything white and green and added a few modern touches as well. Bad idea. It probably looked like trash. Now, the structure was in danger of being demolished in 1955, at which time Hugo Friedman bought the mansion and presented it to the Tuscaloosa County Commission to be used as a public library. And then, between 1955 and 1957, the structure was renovated to meet the needs of a public library. So
wow, it turned into a library.
Became a library.
Interesting.
Now, the house served a generation of Tuscaloosans as the Friedman Public Library before it once again returned to private hands. In 1979, Gray Boone purchased the property to serve as offices for Antique Monthly, with expectations that the house would be restored, preserved, and maintained. So this house was a landmark before it was considered a landmark.
Right.
And by landmark, I mean McDonald's can be a landmark, but I mean like a historic landmark.
Right. Like everybody knows.
Everybody knows, especially if you're a Tuscaloosan, this place has actually become a very, very beautiful and very popular wedding destination.
Oh, I'm sure.
To get married in. The pictures are... I just can't, I've never covered one where I'm like, oh man, that is the most beautiful house I've ever seen.
Wow.
Never. Like, because they're always, in the back of this place is like, it's pretty ragged out looking, I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
But the front of it, man, the front of it is exactly what I would want a southern mansion to look. I mean, it's so pretty.
So do they just kind of like half do it?
No, it's just from time.
Okay.
It's just time, because
okay, gotcha.
it was never restored and stuff. I mean, I'm sure people have slapped paint on it over the years, but
right.
It's never, if you live in a
like a full-fledged thing.
We live in Florida, or we did live in Florida.
I was like,
I was going to say we lived in, but it didn't come out of my mouth.
We do?
And like over time, you have to get work done. You have to.
Oh, absolutely.
Your roof will cave in. If you're in a wood home, which I'm sure there's a lot of wood in this home, termites are a thing.
Yep.
Weather, they're in Georgia, or they're in Alabama, and Alabama has their fair share of storms roll through. So, I mean, over time, things happen.
Heat and warping and all kinds of stuff.
So it no matter how well built something is in the South, the elements will take its toll.
Yes, very much so.
Now, in 1991, the city of Tuscaloosa acquired the mansion and deeded it in 1992 to the Jemison-Van De Graaff Mansion Foundation, formed that year to manage the house. This foundation became responsible for the restoration and upkeep of the mansion for the city of Tuscaloosa and the TCPS, or Tuscaloosa County Preservation Society. Research and restoration on the property continues into the present day. Currently, the main floor has been carefully restored to its original 1860s appearance and can be rented out to the public for weddings, parties, and receptions. Now, the mansion, which also serves as a museum, is free and open to the public Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Wow.
It's free. You can just go in there.
And walk around, explore.
But you
that's so cool.
Have to go in during hours of operations because there was a lot of bad reviews, but they weren't really bad reviews because the bad reviews were like, this place is incredible, it's beautiful, but they wouldn't let me in because I didn't come at the right time.
Come
on, Karen. Come on, Karen.
Come on. That's ridiculous.
Dude, come on.
So it was beautiful, it was gorgeous, but I'm not punctual.
You know what? I think they should ask to talk to the manager. It's ridiculous. This place is incredible.
Wow. They were just jealous that they can't be on time.
See the pictures of this place.
I'm so excited. I want to.
I don't care if anybody agrees with me or not. It is amazing. I would live here in a heartbeat. I'm excited. I wouldn't want to clean it, but it's 26 rooms, man. Come on.
No.
Give me a break. That's way too much.
I don't want to clean that.
So that's the Jemison. That's the history of it, and Tuscaloosa, because I wasn't really able to throw it in last week.
Yeah.
I wanted to, but the story would have just way too long.
Forever and ever and ever and
so
ever.
Jemison, despite, because I don't want to be like, man, what a great man, because he was a slave owner and he was for it.
Right.
Take that out of the equation. And he did some pretty amazing things. He was a smart man, at least, even if he was a villain. Like, he was a smart villain. And he had exquisite taste, I have to say. Because that house, man, I mean, we align on that one, I guess, because I love the house.
Wow.
I haven't seen a picture yet where I was like, meh.
I know there's a lot of people in history in general that are, inventors and things like that, but like some other people just stand out more than others. And I think...
Well, he had good taste.
I think
he had good taste.
He does as well. I mean, that chess move...
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I'm just saying.
It's pretty smart.
I'm just saying.
It's pretty smart, but we do actually have an amount of spooky stuff to talk about. I mean...
Yes.
Some.
My favorite.
But it's going to have to happen after this break.
And now, Booze Crew, back to the show.
Okay. You would think after so many years of doing this, you would know what to say coming back.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm just like...
Yeah. I had to hover my finger over the button and look at you like...
I'll realize one day. It's okay.
YouTubes don't get to know about this. I usually cut this out for YouTube, but I'll leave it in for the podcasters. So... The one thing about Alabama that I have seen across the board is how haunted Alabama is.
Okay.
It's...
Like just in general.
In general. I would say collectively, there might be other states that think they rival Alabama as far as haunted locations, but I don't think anybody comes close.
Wow. Okay.
I found a list of, throwing up the quote fingers here, of haunted locations in Alabama. And it is by far the longest list I've seen looking up paranormal locations.
What? Really?
I don't know if it's because of the Civil War, because of slavery. I have no idea.
Wow.
But it was just it was like a never ending list. It was insane.
I kind of feel too like the South in general.
I think it has a lot to do with...
Tends to be that way.
Like Native American stuff.
Yeah.
Because so much stuff happened on this land before anybody even knew what this land was.
Right.
That and the, slave times, because, I mean, that was horrific. And if we go by the belief that, pain and tragedy and stuff is a cause of this, then, I mean, that would make sense, because there's not too many people who led a more traumatic life than slaves.
Right. And I think too, like, we talk about this a lot. And, it's not necessarily the hauntings are, from those previous times or like from the Native Americans. And that's not those specific people, but just the energy in general that it leaves behind.
It's like fueling it.
Right. For others to be able to come back. But
Alabama is just known to be haunted. Like, they might as well just say Alabama's haunted.
The whole state, just the whole thing.
Intensely. Now, when it comes to paranormal activity, Alabama has an impressive collection of locations believed to be haunted. From houses and hotels to restaurants and cemeteries, there are several haunted places located throughout the Yellowhammer State. I didn't even know it was called that.
What? I don't get it.
I don't either.
Okay.
With Old Bryce Hospital, Maple Hill Cemetery, Drish House, Fort Morgan, the Trotter House, and so many more to choose from, there is no shortage of paranormal activity to be found. But still, one of the spookiest places they claim in Alabama is the Jemison-Van De Graaff mansion, and visitors claim it's sure to give you nightmares.
Oh.
Now, the Jemison home survived the Civil War, but its residents felt the devastating effects of the war between the states in a truly profound way. Jemison's daughter, Cherokee, married a Yale graduate named Andrew Hargrove. Now, Hargrove was injured in the war and suffered from terrible headaches as a result. The pain was so severe that Hargrove would ultimately shoot himself in the library of the Jemison home.
Oh. That is so terrible.
He couldn't take the pain.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I wonder what, like,
I'm sure that happened.
caused that. I mean, I know he got injured in the war,
I
but
would
like
I would imagine probably
head trauma or something.
maybe he got grazed by a bullet. Maybe he was smashed with the butt of a rifle. Maybe he was near a cannon explosion.
That's
Something.
bad. I am a sufferer of migraines, and I get that.
You're also the giver of migraines.
Duh. Have you met me?
Yeah, I have. We're here now. Now, Cherokee Jemison Hargrove was so distraught after her husband's suicide that she fell into a deep depression that lasted the remainder of her days. There have since been reports of ghosts of Cherokee and Andrew roaming the halls of the mansion. There have also been reports of an unknown girl seen holding the banister of the grand staircase. Not to mention, a small child's handprint has also been known to mysteriously appear on glass windows all over the mansion.
Ew.
Yeah,
I don't like that.
it's weird.
Handprint, just, boop.
Yeah,
Little handprints
it
everywhere.
reminds me of wasn't that like the mirror at the Stanley Hotel or something?
No, that was the mirror in Louisiana.
No, you're thinking of the Plantation. I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. I think there was one at the Stanley too. There was
Was there?
I think there was one in the hallway or something where a handprint would appear.
There probably was. We do a lot of places. They
We
all
talked
kind of
about
blend
so
together.
many. Now, visitors and employees of the Grand Mansion have reported hearing phantom music emanating from empty rooms. The same guests and employees have also claimed to have heard voices and footsteps in the mansion, even when they're all alone. Now, legend has it that one ghost had an appalling reaction on a wedding day. A bride reported that a mirror flew off the wall, aimed directly at her head, just barely missing hitting her head. And this would go on to become the most famous of the stories at the mansion.
No thanks.
Which leads me to believe that that's
What?
more of a modern tale because they do weddings now. But
Right. Because now it's like a place where people go to do those
I
things.
have to throw this out here, though. I searched and searched and searched some more and then some more. And then I searched some more. I can't find out who this girl is, when this happened, when it happened, nothing.
Interesting.
I can just find the story
like
of it
the
happening.
story itself. Right.
Yeah, so I don't know how true that is.
Not much validity out there to back that up.
And that doesn't necessarily mean it's fake
No,
or
absolutely
anything.
not.
It just means that the story is hard to find, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now, Ian Crawford, curator of the Jemison-Van De Graaff mansion, says, quote, "We've had many groups come through to investigate paranormal activity, and some have even found some difficult to explain phenomena. If the house is haunted, though it's not an angry or negative feeling. I've spent many hours alone in the house during the day and night, and it certainly can be eerie, but it's not all scary." Now, despite frequent questions about ghosts, Crawford never seems to get sick of answering them. However, Crawford and many others who have visited the mansion have been in the house and have heard a tremendous crashing sound coming from the upper floor, as if a formal china cabinet had been pushed over, splintering wood, shattering crystal, and breaking china.
That's a massive sound to hear.
Usually
Usually you hear
that would
footsteps
be very
or
loud. It would
like
be
a
very
door
loud.
closing, and none of those tend to be super loud, but
Yeah.
a china cabinet falling over, that is a very loud sound.
Yet when Crawford and others go to investigate the source of the noise, nothing is ever out of place. Quote, "It has happened to me. When the law firm was downstairs," Crawford said, "it sounded like the Belvedere just fell through the roof. I ran upstairs and there was nothing. The law firm even called asking what happened. They'd heard it too, and it's a sound from inside the house. People always describe it in the same way, like a china cabinet falling over." Unquote. So, very
I
distinctly.
couldn't imagine just sitting there hearing that massive of a sound, and you go and there's absolutely nothing. You're like, I know what I heard.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a
it
very distinct sound.
would be a very jarring thing to hear
Yeah.
what sounds like a china cabinet falling over and then finding nothing out of place. Now, whatever may or may not be lingering around the Jemison-Van De Graaff mansion, the home certainly occupies a unique place in Tuscaloosa's history, And Ian and the rest of the caretakers of the old home hope it will continue to attract more visitors in the future. So not only are they not afraid of it, but they're actually hoping that the people who talk about it will bring in people to see for themselves.
Yeah, come and look for themselves.
At the end of this story, I will have a major point of contention with this.
Okay.
Okay? To remind me, because sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'll have something to say about this, and I forget. Don't let me forget, because I have a problem with this statement.
Point of contention. Got it.
Now, there are also local legends regarding the house and having ties to the Underground Railroad. Unfortunately, this just isn't true. It seems that people have mistaken the underground refrigeration system as part of a tunnel system leading to the river. Another tale, often told, links the house with the Drish Mansion. This place, on the other hand, does seem to be very haunted.
The Drish Mansion?
Yes.
Well, that's hard to say. Drish Mansion.
It's another famously haunted Tuscaloosa mansion. Now, Hidgen and Talley, authors of Haunted Tuscaloosa and Haunted Alabama's Black Belt, note that the mansion's tower was constructed specifically by Dr. John Drish, just so that he could observe this mansion's construction.
What?
There was like a rival going on between Drish and Jemison.
So he's just like, I'm going to build this thing just so I can watch what he's doing.
Just to make sure that he's not outdoing me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's weird, but all right.
Now, additionally, Robert Jemison worked with African-American bridge builder Horace King, who is believed to have designed and built Spring Villa, a haunted mansion in Opelika, linking the Jemison-Van De Graaff mansion directly to two other well-known haunted locations.
Wow.
There's so much going on between Jemison's mansion, the hospital on Jemison's land, other haunted locations. They all have a tie to each other.
Right.
I wonder why.
Huh.
We're not going to find out, but I wonder why.
It's like all of these things are in one pool.
It's so weird.
It's so weird.
And they're all connected in some way.
Huh.
I didn't even think Alabama liked anybody. Now, on a website called ghostquest.net, I was able to find additional claims of paranormal activity, but bear in mind that these claims were only found on this website. This is the only website. Quote, visitors report feeling a presence watching over them and protecting them as they enter the old library. Upstairs, however, they report feeling an evil presence who has been reported to push people on the stairs. Visitors have reported being touched throughout the mansion, and another presence can be felt in the basement tunnels where Civil War soldiers once lived. I can find nothing else to back any of this up, though. The website's actually pretty impressive, not going to lie.
Okay.
They have a list of like every Alabama town and every haunted location and the claims of each location in there. But the problem is that what I found for this location on there is nothing of what I found other places. So I don't really know.
I'm just going to side-eye that one for a minute.
I'm not really sure about it.
Yeah.
Now, and this is mostly where the story ends. While last week we had very little stories and tons of personal experiences, this one is actually its polar opposite. Now, I've read the same story for 4 hours straight, but no group stories of investigators or anything deviating from the same story told repeatedly. I cannot stress to everybody how long I stared at the internet at nothing. So patreon.com for the booze if you'd like to help out, because I put in a lot of...
You always do. This
one was different though. Usually it's hours spent because I'm like, how do I want to word this?
Yeah.
Do I want to change this? Do I just want to put it straight in the way it is? Do I want to tell this story? Does this need to be left out? This one was different. This was more like just trying to find anything that I could put in here. But it's crazy because this house is stated as the most haunted house in Alabama, yet there are so many more locations that have so much more information.
But you had to scour to find stuff.
And I'm not saying like there has to be an overwhelming amount of paranormal activity, but if all the visitors and all the employees have these paranormal experiences, then who's talking about them? Where are they?
Right.
Because I can't find them.
Hello?
I don't know where they are. Now, but that doesn't mean that there weren't any stories. So let's see what I could actually find.
Okay.
Now, on the website, alabamapioneers.com, in January 2019, someone named Kevin Walden commented, quote, "I can attest to the paranormal reports. I work with a film crew, and we have been there twice to investigate. Both nights had a lot of activity."
Okay.
So but it's somebody,
it's something.
it's somebody saying that they had
Paranormal activity.
Paranormal activity.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, on the website, alabamahauntedhouses.com, in July of 2022, someone wrote, and this is the same website from last week. "Now, we were outside taking pictures of the house. While looking back at our pictures, we believe we caught pictures of what appears to be a young girl and a man in a tower looking down at us. The whole time we were there, we felt as if someone was watching us," unquote. Can't find the pictures, though.
Yeah. At least show the picture or something, you know?
Well, I mean, on this website, you can't really like upload pictures and stuff.
Or link to it or
Something. But I mean, I did consistently Google, Jemison-Van De Graaff mansion, and I did see some pictures. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
But maybe like two, maybe, and they were questionable at that.
Interesting.
Now, someone named Kathy A. on TripAdvisor.com in July 2017 wrote, and there are more reviews of this place online. They're just not paranormal. Because you got to remember, again, it's a wedding venue.
Yeah.
So there are, a lot
Plenty of other reviews.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Quote, "We were in Tuscaloosa just stopping over on our way to Louisiana. We were wandering around about 7 p.m. and stumbled upon this mansion. Would have loved to have gone in, but they were closed for the day. Still, it was worth stopping by to see it. It makes you feel like you're not alone, if you know what I mean. Kind of creepy. It draws you in." So she gets a feeling. And, I mean, I'm sorry, but that's kind of where it all ends. I truly hit a roadblock on this one.
Okay.
I think this is the first time in like 115 episodes where I wasn't able to find stuff to keep going. Usually, I can find at least enough reviews to be like, well, I can keep going.
Right.
Or something. But this one was just, it was a brick wall.
Wow.
Like I said, I was reading blogs from 15, 20 years ago. And
I don't know why, but I think that's so funny.
There are things that I could have added in here, but I know they're fake.
Okay.
And I'm not going to do that because that's not what this podcast is about. Our podcast is more about, is it real or is it not real?
Yeah.
I'm not going to add something I know is fake.
Okay.
And there's a lot of stories of people saying, telling the story about how the mansion got burnt down. I say, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
On record, it did not happen. So I'm not going to add that. But this is the story of the Jemison-Van De Graaff mansion.
Okay.
Known locally as the most haunted place in Alabama. How? I have no idea.
What was your point of contention?
Oh, okay. So he said that he doesn't mind talking about it and that he hopes that it draws in more visitors. The problem with that is your story that you're telling real, or is it just in hopes that you're bringing people in?
Yeah, that is a very good point.
You have a business reason to make up a story.
Oh, of course.
So it makes sense to me that you would tell a story like that, even if it wasn't true, because it brings people in.
Yep, that it definitely would do.
And that's the issue with that is like if he... Now, I found that story. It was actually on a University of Alabama student newspaper from, I don't know, a few years ago. So, I don't know. To me, it just doesn't seem authentic because he straight up admits, like, hey, I hope my story brings people in.
I would definitely have to agree with you. I think I feel like that's...
sketchy?
That.
It's sketchy.
Yeah, that. And like people who own businesses and things like that and go off of like the lore and legend that we talk about a lot or the alleged things and just run with it. Like it is truth just to bring more business.
I agree and disagree a little bit.
Okay.
Only because like we have talked about places where the business side of it like fully leans into it.
Yeah.
But the thing that they have that this place doesn't have are tons of accounts, pictures, videos, EVPs, stuff like that. So even if they don't believe it, at least they would have things to show you, like
kind of back it up.
To back it up.
Right.
And this place just doesn't seem to.
Okay.
Does that make it not paranormal? I don't know, because I haven't been there personally.
Yeah.
And there are people throughout the state of Alabama who believe it to be the most haunted place in Alabama. It's just such a weird one. This is such a strange one for me, because I can't understand how it got the moniker of most haunted house in Alabama. I don't get it. Because to me, what I read seems like the Drish house is by far the most haunted place in Alabama.
Right.
Because that place.
So why would this one get the whole shebang?
Maybe because of who built it, and I don't know. Because Robert Jemison, whether you've heard of him or not, he is a very prominent historical figure in Alabama history.
Right.
He is. Like,
he just is. Like, yeah. He's one of the pillars. He is. He's there.
Like,
staple.
So I don't know. This is the most confusing one for me that I've done. So I'm sure you're confused, which means
I am very confused.
Means to me that this is a good time to ask you.
Is it real?
That tells me that's the right time to ask you, so we can let you go.
Great.
So, Megan, what do you think of the Jemison-Van De Graaff mansion? Do you think it's haunted? Let me take a sip of my water while I wait.
I'm gonna say no. Whether they put the label of most haunted, whatever, on it, until there is more out there, and you can go and visit this place. You can go and like walk around and investigate. You can't do it at night, but like there needs to be more for sure.
Actually, I don't know if you can go in and investigate here.
I mean, it's open to the public.
That doesn't mean you can go
between
in and investigate.
The hours of 10 and 5.
That means you're allowed to go walk around and look at it.
And what says you can't walk around with a recorder and a video camera?
Some places won't let you.
I mean, I'm just saying. I'm going to say no. Is there a possibility? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. There's possibility with anywhere, ever. But from what I've seen and what I've read and what we've talked about today, I'm definitely going to say no.
Okay.
So, what about you, babe?
I'm also going to say no.
Okay.
But I'm only going to say no off the basis that the only one that can really substantiate or talks about or claims to have an experience that can be linked back to an actual person is the curator for the house. And that's the problem.
Good point.
That's the problem for me.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful house. It's old. It most definitely went through some stuff during the Civil War.
Absolutely.
People definitely died there. They definitely did. Jemison definitely died in the house. His daughter's husband and I believe his daughter both died in the house. But they didn't die like tragic. The only one who died tragically was Cherokee Mims' husband.
The husband, yeah.
He's the only one. Jemison died like of old age. Cherokee died of old age. Mm-hmm. So, and they were happy families that lived there. The kids were, astoundingly smart and gifted children, and they had other kids too. They just didn't do anything historically notable, but they were all like great kids. So there's really nothing that went on at this house. Like, I understand why the land over at the plantation would be haunted.
Yeah.
Things happen there.
Yeah.
But as far as like that goes, nothing really went down here other than families who lived there and loved their family and loved their home and did amazing historic things. And for me, there's just not enough. Like, I don't even know who these stories are about. Nobody's got pictures of these hands. Nobody talks about it, the handprints. Right. Who's the bride? How come she's never talked about it? Where's the story about that?
Hello?
There's nothing I can link back to any of that. And I'm sorry I'm going on and on because this was very frustrating for me. I sat and I looked up information on this place for about 10 hours the other day. And this is all I could find. This is it.
That's crazy.
In 10 hours. That's it. That is all I could find. Mm-mm. And that's insane. That is the least amount I think I have ever found for a location that we've done.
Yeah, and it's super disappointing, too, when you get the, most haunted place in Alabama and all these other things. Like, where did we get that from?
But
what did we base that on?
I don't regret doing it, only because it had a tie to the Jemison Center, and that's what I wanted for a part 2 to this.
Yeah.
And it's also going to lead us into, I think we're going to maybe do something centered around Alabama so we can see just how haunted it really is.
Okay, kind of take on that list a little bit.
We might do like a little Alabama series because I'm telling you, I have never seen a list as prominent of haunted locations as I've seen in Alabama.
That's crazy.
So you Alabamans out there, if you listen and you do live in Alabama, send us an email. Let us know. Have you ever had a paranormal experience where you live, or you watchers on YouTube, comment down below. Have you had a paranormal experience where you live in Alabama? Because it seems like anywhere you go is haunted.
Yeah, this place might maybe possibly be a gold mine of paranormal activity.
And if that's the case, I mean, this is going to be the first place we've come across because I've never heard of anything so haunted. But I think this is where the story, unfortunately, has to end.
All right.
Watchers, like and subscribe, hit the little bell. I can't figure out how to do all the little icons for it, but there'll be like little subscribe down here. So do that. And where can they find us?
Well, they can find us on Instagram at @forthebooze_podcast and on Facebook at forthebooze.
You can also find us on X at forthebooze and right here, of course, on YouTube at forthebooze. Don't forget to check us out on TikTok, also at forthebooze. And I've gone in and I've kind of taken the dash out of everything.
Okay, good.
So it'll be easier to find, hopefully.
Good.
Hopefully. Some things, though, might have _podcast.
Okay. That's fine.
It's hard because, we have so many forms of social media.
Right.
And, if somebody's already got it, we have to do something to it.
Something else, yeah.
Don't forget, guys, we still want your listener stories, as always. I did have somebody reach out to me on TikTok today that we haven't heard from in a while who says he's got some stories for us, so you might actually get some stories soon. And you can send all that, or suggestions. Did you say that already?
No.
Okay.
Listener suggestions.
If you have a place that you would like to hear about, we do have one next week we're doing from a listener.
Yay.
That's at forthebooze12@gmail.com. And one last thing.
That super special thing?
It is super special because nobody does it. And we need it. It is 5 stars, rate and review.
That's right.
On iTunes or anywhere you listen.
It's not for us. It's not for our egos. It helps us out. It helps the show out. And we want to take this show to great places.
It is the only way that sponsors and stuff like that will, look at you.
Yeah.
And we need that to grow the show. So just do it. Please. Thanks.
Please and thank you. Rude.
I know. I'm a bad guy. But I guess go ahead and take us out. Let's get out of here.
Well, thank you, everybody, so much for listening. And we will see you in the next one. Bye.
I got to go to an open house. I love it. I'm buying it.